This is a 144 acre organic farm. And as such, still most of the crops on a farm this size are what are called row crops. The crops you use heavy machinery to plant and till and to cultivate and to harvest and so forth. And we've planted alfalfa, organic corn, oats, organic beans, and rye so far. But we also wanted to be able to have fresh produce and vegetables. And being that this is Iowa, that's pretty easy for 6 months out of the year, but it's much harder to go beyond 6 months. Iowa's traditionally done a lot of canning, and in the last decades a lot of freezing. But more and more work's being done finding varieties of food and methodologies to where we can grow food 7, 8, 9, 10 plus months out of the year. So the United States Department of Agriculture, to incentivize farmers, small farmers, to grow more produce for Iowa, developed a grant for building hoop houses. And that's what we have behind in the distance. We've got the skeleton for the hoop house. And so we'd wanted to build a greenhouse, but greenhouses can be very expensive. This is a 2,200 square foot hoop house, and if we'd built a rigid frame, multi-year greenhouse, it probably would have cost us in the neighborhood of at least $20,000, maybe $25,000. The hoop house, we've done all the labor so far has been either mine, my family's. Hired a few specialists, and we've had volunteers. We've had volunteers from MUM and some woofers that have come through. So really, our labor so far has been almost nothing, and our grant was for about $5,000, which was within pennies of what the actual greenhouse cost. I think in addition to the grant, we've had to pay out about another $300 in special anchors to keep the greenhouse from lifting in the high winds and blowing away. So the whole project, if you valued all the labor and the materials, is probably about a $10,000 project, which is considerably less than a rigid frame greenhouse. And the lifespan on it, the tubular frame, the skeleton, it's probably a 20-year lifespan. It's aluminum and steel, whereas the skin, the plastic, is about a 5-year lifespan. So still, in terms of cost effectiveness, it's a very effective, very cost effective way to start extending your growing season. The grant application was quite simple. It wasn't a very rigorous one, or it didn't feel like a rigorous grant. It wasn't as competitive as some of the larger high dollar grants that the USDA is involved with. And so we were a successful applicant. We probably didn't have more than a couple days involved in writing up the grant, explaining how we were going to use it and so forth. So we felt that was it was money that the government spent. I don't know, we felt it was well spent, let's put it that way, because we were able to get it. And it didn't cost us an arm and a leg to compete on a national scale. There's a whole range of greenhouses that you can build and use, depending on whether you're just trying to add a few months to your growing season or whether you're trying to go year-round. A lot of greenhouses that are year-round greenhouses are heated. The glass or the material that's used to let the sunlight in, it can be a plastic type polymer, insulated polymer. They can be very, very sophisticated. They have levers and mechanical systems that open and close to keep the temperature inside from getting too hot on very sunny days. Fans usually are in the long axis ends to keep air moving over the plants. It keeps the plants healthier, and again, keeps from getting too hot. It's actually a big problem in a lot of greenhouses is they actually can get too hot, especially in the spring, fall. In the summer, you usually have to put up shading so that the plants don't get too hot if you keep them inside the greenhouse. Greenhouses can be used for year-round growth of a particular type of plant, but probably most people use them to start plants and then move them outside once the weather is more temperate. Again, the rigid frame greenhouses that I was speaking of, they can have irrigation systems built in. They can last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years with some maintenance of movable parts and any glass or plastic sheathing that gets damaged from hail or just objects. So once we got the grant, we shopped around. There's 2 different manufacturers we found that manufacture a hoop house that met the grant specifications. It had to be a certain width, it had to be a certain height, it had to last at least 5 years, and we looked at 2. One of them is a company called Clearspan, and the other is a company called FarmTech. FarmTech gave us the best value we felt at that particular time for that particular size hoop house. So we ordered it to FarmTech. FarmTech was used to working with these grants from all over the country, and they worked with our local USDA representative to allow us to receive the building, and then they accepted payment. In other words, we didn't have to come out with $5,000 out of pocket and then be reimbursed, and that really helped our cash flow a lot. So finally we had all the paperwork taken care of, and we knew the greenhouse was on the way to us, and they told us to have a forklift ready here at the farm to unload it. And as it turned out, we had a skid loader with forks available. The truck showed up. It was a semi-sized truck. It was a very large truck, and there were 2 huge boxes in the back of it. I think the total packing was 4 tons. It's a lot of steel, a lot of aluminum, and even the plastic that's going to make the exterior sheathing is heavy and large and bulky. So as you can see, the frame there was once in just 2 boxes that would maybe take up a sedan, a small sedan. Automobile wouldn't fit inside it, but that's the amount of room. So then we had to get them off the truck and get them inside a barn so we could inventory the pieces, make sure everything was there in the packing, find the instructions. And the first instruction was to read through the instructions all the way through at least twice before you start building anything. That way you can get kind of the holistic viewpoint of what you're supposed to be doing. The instructions gave suggestions on where to put your greenhouse.